Hey,
Hi
Scott.
guys, how you doing?
Hey.
Hey Scott.
They caught me
Welcome.
unawares just then. They said they're sending me, and I said
Oh,
okay. And then I was in between humming the silly song from WandaVision, so apologies.
yeah.
That's a great show.
Anyway, enough said about WandaVision. Congratulations on the film. I watched it last night. It's absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
the experience. Don, maybe I'll start with you. When you're planning these things, you start
Mhm.
so many years out. How long did it take you to get to a point where you thought, right, we're in a position now where we can move forward and we can make this thing?
Well, like yesterday. Um, it's interesting. These films have, like you alluded to, such a long development time. Like this one in particular started about 6 years ago. And in fact, we came on the film about a year and a half ago. So it had a development time even prior to us getting involved, and there were things that were always in the DNA of the film, and it was always going to be an epic action adventure fantasy film, first and foremost, and not a musical. Like we were going to really give ourselves license to go ahead, let this be an action adventure fantasy film. And then the second part would be inspired by the many different cultures of Southeast Asia. And that came about very simply from a team of artists going to the region for an extended period of time and just getting inspired by the people and the cultures and architecture, music, all of it, and bringing that back to the studio and wanting to build the film around being inspired by that. And it started there, and 5 or 6 years ago, and continuing on even when we came on. And so I think what we added to the mix was just, it always wanted to be a story about community, because that was part of the being inspired by the cultures of Southeast Asia, this idea of community, which is so rich and prevalent there. We thought to tell the story through the lens of trust would be the best way to kind of get there. And I think that's what, from our first meeting, when we came on about a year and a half ago, we landed on that theme of trust, and I guess never look back.
Yeah. And Carlos, I read that you nearly went down the Deadpool route and had an R-rated R-rated Disney film, which would have
Carlos,
gone
did you
off
say that? Carlos,
got off
wow.
gangbusters. But in terms of your preparation, it must be strange to be planning something for Disney and then think, oh my God, maybe we've gone too far. Maybe we have to rein this back in a little bit.
Don gets excited in these interviews and then uses hyperbole to speak about some of these ideas, and then
And then you become the fall guy for it.
and then I have to clean up. No, that's not true. No, I think it was slightly taken out of context, just in the sense that there was never an R-rated version cut of this movie. That's just not how these movies even work. Like, essentially, you get to design all of the stuff with the story artist, and you get to see cuts. Like, it's a different idea. What we were alluding to was the fact that we knew that there was going to be action in this movie. We knew there were going to be fight sequences. We knew that they were going to be very cinematic. And at some points, our story artists definitely just get excited, and they don't get to board these kinds of sequences at Disney very often. So there was definitely some passes at some scenes where had a few more impacts and were pretty heightened, and we just had to ride the line to make sure that these felt real and that the threat felt real, but that we also weren't doing anything that felt gratuitous or just overly graphic. So there really wasn't an R-rated cut of the movie. There were just some exciting story sessions where we had to together find the right balance of action and just making this a family film.
That was an early animation test, though, that was pretty brutal too. And if you remember, there was a first animated test of Nabari and Raya fighting, and it was actually really good, because we found that in animation you have control over the frame, so you could literally have people punching people, and you could see the hand to the face,
impact,
and the elbow to the whatever. And they did it. They went there, and it was good because it was very visceral and wonderful. But it was also, we kind of knew the line, So it's like, okay, let's back it off just a little bit.
There's this great animation test with like Namari did some kind of like elbow jab and then just brought the hand up and punched Raya in the face. They're like, it looks great. We probably shouldn't do that. It hurts to watch. But it was all in the spirit of exploring and just figuring out what our visual language was going to be. So there was no like form of censorship or like it was just a group of artists trying to figure out how to make the coolest action sequences that we could.
Absolutely. Well, guys, my time's run out. Kui, I'm so sorry I didn't get to ask you a question, but they're telling me.
Oh, good, man.
But thank you so much for the movie. I really enjoyed it, and good luck with it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey